The meeting room on Zelfani Prime was quiet except for the soft humming of the air recyclers. 7 different alien species sat around the curved table, their forms casting strange shadows under the blue lights. Ambassador Kethver of the Zelfani looked at each face with growing despair. His own people resembled tall, thin birds with silver feathers and large black eyes. The others were just as different from each other as they were from him. The holographic display in the center of the phone table showed the same terrible news it had shown for the past 3 months. Red markers spread across the star map like a disease. Each red dot was a world that had fallen to the chromic hegemony. Each one meant billions of dead civilians. The chromic fleet has taken the Vega system, reported General Thomas's, a thick-bodied creature with 4 arms and skin like gray stone. They killed everyone. No prisoners, no survivors. Just like always, Kethver's feathers ruffled with stress. The chromic had been conquering worlds for over 200 years. They were perfect killing machines. Their technology was better than anyone else's. Their ships were faster and stronger. Their weapons could destroy entire planets. But worst of all, they never stopped. They never showed mercy. They never listened to reason. "What about the peace talks?" asked Dr. Yilla, her tentacles waving nervously. She was from a water world where her people had never known war until the chromic came. "Dead," Kethver said simply. Ambassador Horth and his entire team were executed. Yesterday, the chromic sent us the recording. The room fell silent. Everyone had seen what the chromic did to prisoners. It was not quick. It was not clean. The chromic seemed to enjoy causing pain and fear. "Our combined fleets?" General Thomas's asked, though his voice showed he already knew the answer. "Destroyed at Kepler Station," Kethver replied. "Admiral Grex fought well. His forces lasted almost 6 hours against the chromic battle group. In the end, it made no difference." Dr. Yilla's tentacles turned pale. 6 hours? Our best admiral and our strongest fleet lasted only 6 hours? "The chromic have been fighting wars for 1,000 years, said Elder Morth, the oldest being in the room. His species looked like walking trees with too many eyes. "We have been at peace for just as long. We forgot how to fight. They never forgot how to kill." Kethver stood and walked to the large window that looked out over the capital city. Millions of his people went about their daily lives below. They did not know that in 6 months, maybe less, the chromic would be here. They did not know that their government had no way to stop what was coming. "We could surrender," suggested Dr. Yilla quietly. "The chromic do not take surrender," Elder Morth said. "They take everything. They leave nothing." General Thomas's slammed, one of his 4 fists on the table. "Then we fight. We make them pay for every world." "With what?" Kethver asked, turning back to face them. "Our fleets are gone. Our weapons cannot hurt their ships. Our planets cannot hide from their sensors. We are not warriors. We are farmers and teachers and builders. They are killers, perfect killers." The silence stretched on. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that reminded Kethver of blood. Soon, very soon, those colors would be real. "Wait," said Dr. Yilla suddenly. Her tentacles were moving fast, the way they did when she was thinking hard. "What about the new species? The ones from the outer rim?" "Which ones?" Elder Morth asked. "The humans, from the Sol system." Kethver's feathers flattened against his head. "You mean the Deathworlders? The primitives?" "They are not as primitive as we thought," Dr. Yilla said, calling up a new display. "I have been studying their transmissions. Their planet is a nightmare world of extreme weather, deadly animals, and natural disasters. But they survived. More than that, they thrived." The display showed images from Earth that made the aliens uncomfortable. Massive storms that could destroy cities. Earthquakes that split the ground open. Volcanoes that threw rock and fire into the sky. Animals with claws and teeth and poison. Plants that could kill with a touch. Look at their history, Dr. Yilla continued. They have been fighting wars for their entire existence. Not just against their environment, but against each other. They have had hundreds of wars, thousands of battles. They have weapons that can kill millions at once, and they have used them. General Thomases studied the images with growing interest. They fight each other constantly? Not anymore, Dr. Yilla said. They recently achieved global unity after something they call the Third World War. But before that, yes, they were always fighting someone. Kethfer was not impressed. So they are violent primitives. How does that help us? Because they know how to fight. Dr. Yilla's tentacles were bright with excitement now. We need soldiers. We need people who understand war. We need killers to fight killers. Their technology is centuries behind ours, Elder Morth pointed out. What good are primitive weapons against chromic shields? Technology is not everything, General Thomases said slowly. I have studied the chromic victories. They win because they are better fighters, not just because they have better weapons. Maybe these humans could teach us something. Kethfer looked at the human images again. The creatures were small and soft-looking. They had no claws or natural armor. They seemed weak compared to most galactic species. But Dr. Yilla was right about one thing. They had survived on a world that should have killed them 1,000,000 times over. What are you suggesting? He asked. We call them, Dr. Yilla said. We ask for help. Military advisors, trainers, maybe some soldiers if they can spare them. They will want payment, General Thomases warned. We can offer them technology, Elder Morth said. Faster than light travel, medical advances, energy weapons, things they do not have yet. Kethfer thought about it. The idea was desperate. The humans were unknown. They might refuse to help. They might demand too much. They might be just as bad as the Chromac. But what choice did they have? Even if they agree, he said, what can a few human advisors do against the entire chromic fleet? Maybe nothing, Dr. Yilla admitted. But right now, we have 0 chance of survival. Even a small chance is better than none. The room was quiet. Again. Outside, the first stars were appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, the chromic fleet was moving closer. In 6 months, maybe less, this room would be empty. This city would be ruins. His people would be dead. I will compose the message, Kethfer said finally, but I will be honest with them. We are asking them to die for strangers. We are asking them to fight an enemy they cannot defeat. We are asking them to buy us time to evacuate what we can before the end comes. Maybe that is not what they will hear, Dr. Yilla said quietly. What do you mean? These humans have a saying, she replied, reading from her data. They say that the best defense is a good offense. Maybe they will not want to just buy time. Maybe they will want to win. Kethfer looked at her with something that might have been hope. It was a feeling he had almost forgotten. Send the message, he said. The message reached Earth on a Tuesday morning. It came in on frequencies that human scientists had only recently learned to monitor. The signal was weak and full of static, but the computer systems at the Deep Space Communications Center in Colorado managed to clean it up enough to understand that Dr. Elena Vasquez was the first human to hear an alien voice. She had been working the night shift, drinking her 4th cup of coffee and watching for signals from space. Most nights, she found nothing but cosmic background noise. This night was different. The translation program took 3 hours to work out the basic meaning. When it finished, Dr. Vasquez read the message 7 times before she believed it was real. Then she picked up the red phone that connected directly to the Pentagon. This is Dr. Vasquez, at Deep Space Communications. I need to speak to General Morrison immediately. We have received first contact. 2 hours later, a message was on the desk of President Sarah Williams. She read it while her coffee grew cold, and her morning briefing waited outside. The message was simple and terrifying. To the people of Earth, we are the Zelfani Confederation, a peaceful alliance of 7 species from the stars you call Vega, Altair, and Proxima Centauri. We are dying. An enemy called the Chromic Hegemony is destroying our worlds one by one. We have tried peace. We have tried diplomacy. We have tried war. Nothing works. They are too strong. In 6 months, they will reach our home worlds. Billions will die. We need help. We can offer you advanced technology in exchange for military assistance. We know you are warriors. Your planet has taught you to fight. Please, we are running out of time. President Williams set the message down and looked out the window of the Oval Office. The world outside looked normal. People went to work. Children played in parks. No one knew that aliens existed. No one knew that somewhere in space, entire civilizations were being wiped out. She pressed the button for her chief of staff. Get me Admiral Chun, General Park, and Dr. Richardson. Emergency meeting in the Situation Room. Also get the heads of NASA, the CIA, and the Joint Chiefs. We need everyone. The Situation Room filled quickly. Admiral Sarah Chun was the first to arrive. She was small and thin, but everyone in the room knew she was the best military strategist alive. She had won the Third World War almost single-handedly. General Park came next. He was a big man with scars on his hands from the Korean campaign. Dr. Richardson shuffled in last, looking confused. He was the head of NASA and not used to emergency military meetings. President Williams did not waste time. We have been contacted by aliens. They are asking for military help. Read this. She handed out copies of the translated message. The room was silent as they read. Admiral Chun finished first and looked up with bright eyes. How do we know this is real? General Park asked. Dr. Richardson cleared his throat. The signal came from outside our solar system. The mathematical proofs they included are beyond our current understanding. Either this is real, or someone has technology so advanced. But the question does not matter. What do we know about these Chromic? Admiral Chun asked. Very little, President Williams replied. But if half of what the aliens say is true, we are looking at a threat that could eventually reach Earth. Eventually, General Park said. The message says they are 6 months away from the alien home worlds. Even if they won every battle instantly, it would take them years to reach us. Admiral Chun was studying the star charts on the wall. Not necessarily. If they have faster-than-light travel, and if they are as aggressive as the message suggests, they might see Earth as a future threat. Better to eliminate us now, while we are weak. The room was quiet as everyone thought about this. Dr. Richardson spoke first. The technology they are offering could advance human civilization by centuries. Faster-than-light travel alone would change everything. If we survive to use it, General Park added. President Williams looked around the table. I want opinions. Do we help them? General Park shook his head. We barely won the Third World War. Our military is still rebuilding. We don't have the resources to fight an interstellar war. Dr. Richardson disagreed. We have to try. If these Chromac are really as dangerous as the message suggests, Earth is next anyway. Better to fight them far from home with all eyes. All eyes turned to Admiral Chun. She was staring at the message, but her mind was clearly somewhere else. Finally, she looked up. How long since the message was sent? She asked. 3 weeks, Dr. Richardson replied. The signal traveled at light speed from the Vega system. So we have about 5 months before they reach the alien home worlds, Admiral Chun said. If we are going to help, We need to move fast. You think we should do this? President Williams asked. Admiral Chun smiled, and it was not a nice smile. Madam President, the Third World War taught us something important. When someone threatens innocent people, we don't send advisors. We don't send trainers. We send everything we have. But our technology is primitive compared to theirs, General Park protested. Maybe, Admiral Chun replied. But technology is. Not everything. The aliens lost because they think like civilians. They tried peace first, then diplomacy, then war. We think like soldiers. When someone threatens us, we hit first and hit hard. President Williams was already thinking ahead. What would we need? Admiral Chun pulled out her tablet and started making notes. Everything. Every ship we can space-worthy. Every soldier we can train for zero-gravity combat. Every weapon we can adapt for space warfare. The cost would be enormous, General Park said. The cost of losing would be higher, Admiral Chun replied. Besides, this is what we do. Humans fight. It's what we're good at. President Williams made her decision. Draft the response. Tell them we're coming. But make it clear that we don't do half measures. If we're fighting this war, we're fighting to win. 3 days later, the response was sent. It was much shorter than the alien message. To the Zalfani Confederation. We have received your message. Earth will provide military assistance. Prepare detailed intelligence on Chromic Forces technology and tactics. We will arrive in 4 months. Humanity does not retreat. We do not surrender. We finish what others start. Hold your positions. Help is coming. The message was signed by President Williams, but the words were Admiral Chun's. Within hours of sending the response, Earth began to change. Factories that had been making cars started making spacecraft. Soldiers who had been training for terrestrial warfare started learning to fight in space. Scientists who had been working on civilian projects were reassigned to weapons development. United Nations held an emergency session. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth agreed on something. The alien threat was too big for any one country. This would be a human response, not an American or Chinese or European one. Admiral Chun was given command of the largest military force ever assembled. Ships from every navy were retrofitted for space combat. Soldiers from every army were retrained. For zero-gravity warfare, pilots from every air force learned to fly spacecraft. The shipyards worked around the clock. Old nuclear submarines were converted into spacecraft. Aircraft carriers became mobile command centers. Even civilian ships were modified with armor and weapons. But the real work was happening in the training centers. Human soldiers were learning to think in 3 dimensions. They were learning to fight without gravity, without air, without the familiar landmarks of Earth warfare. Admiral Chun watched it all from her command center in Colorado. On the screens around her, she could see the progress of humanity's greatest military mobilization. In 4 months, they would launch the largest fleet in human history toward an enemy they had never seen. She thought about the alien message. They had asked for military advisors. They had asked for trainers. They had asked for help buying time to evacuate. They were going to get something completely different. They were going to get humanity at war. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zalfani border system just as the Chromic attack began. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the U.E.'s Defiance, watching the tactical display with cold eyes. Red dots marked the positions of the Chromic fleet. Blue dots showed the remaining Zalfani ships. Green dots were the human fleet. The numbers were not good. The Chromic had 200 ships. The Zalfani had maybe 50 left. The humans had brought 120 ships, but they were smaller and less advanced than either alien fleet. Admiral, called Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. We're receiving a transmission from the Zalfani flagship. Put it through, Admiral Chun ordered. The main screen flickered, and Ambassador Kethvar appeared. His silver feathers were ruffled with stress, and his large black eyes were wide with panic. Admiral Chun, thank the stars you made it. But you need to retreat immediately. The Chromac are attacking with their main battle fleet. Your ships cannot survive against their weapons. Admiral Chun's expression did not change. Ambassador, we didn't come here to retreat. What's the tactical situation? The Chromac commander is General Vextar. He has 2 battle cruisers and 18 destroyers hitting our orbital defense platforms. The rest of his fleet is moving to cut off our escape routes. We estimate 12 hours before our defenses fall completely. Where are your remaining ships? Defending the evacuation transports. Admiral, you must help us escape. There are millions of civilians on the surface. Admiral Chun studied the tactical display. The Chromac ships were larger and more advanced, but they were moving in predictable patterns. They were fighting like they had never faced real opposition before. Negative, Ambassador. We're not here to help you run. We're here to stop them. She turned to her communications officer. Open a channel to the Chromac fleet. Admiral, what are you doing? Kethvar asked, his feathers standing almost straight up. Something you should have done months ago. The screen changed, showing a creature that looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect. Its skin was dark green and covered in ridges. Its eyes glowed red in the dim light of its bridge. General Vextar looked at Admiral Chun with obvious amusement. So the primitives finally arrive, Vextar said, his voice like grinding metal. I am General Vextar of the Chromac hegemony. You will surrender your ships immediately, or we will destroy them. Admiral Chun smiled. It was the same cold smile she had worn during the Third World War, right before she turned the tide of the entire conflict. General Vextar, this is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Terran Defense Force. You have exactly 1 chance to withdraw from this system. Leave now or face the consequences. General Vextar's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. You threaten me? Your primitive ships cannot even scratch our shields. Watch and learn why the galaxy fears the Chromac. 3 Chromac. Destroyers broke formation and accelerated toward the human fleet. Their energy weapons began charging, creating a blue glow along their hulls. Admiral Chun turned to her tactical officer. Commander Santos, execute Battle Plan Alpha. Yes, ma'am. All ships, this is Fleet Command. Execute Alpha. Repeat, execute Alpha. The human fleet suddenly scattered in all directions. The Chromac destroyers, expecting the humans to form a defensive line, found themselves shooting at empty space. Before they could adjust, the human ships had reformed behind them. Now, Admiral Chun said quietly, the human ships opened fire with everything they had. But instead of energy weapons, they used something the Chromac had never seen before. Kinetic. Rounds, solid metal projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic rails. The Chromac shields were designed to stop energy weapons. They were perfect against lasers and plasma cannons. But they did nothing to stop chunks of depleted uranium traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. The first Chromac destroyer was torn apart in seconds. The second managed to turn before a kinetic round punched through its engine section and detonated its power core. The third destroyer got off 1 shot before human missiles, moving too fast for its point defense systems, turned it into expanding debris. The tactical display showed 3 red dots vanishing. The remaining Chromac fleet stopped moving. Impossible, General Vextar whispered. His red eyes were wide with shock. Our shield stopped nothing. How? Admiral Chun's smile got wider. We don't use energy weapons for ship-to-ship combat, General. We use physics. This changes nothing. Vextar snarled, but his voice had lost its confidence. You destroyed 3 ships with a surprise attack. We still outnumber you 2-1. Actually, Admiral Chun said, checking her display, you outnumber us 1.7-1, but numbers aren't everything. She turned to Commander Santos. Signal the fleet. Battle Formation Delta. Target. Their command ship. The human fleet moved like a school of fish, flowing around the larger Chromag ships. The aliens tried to track them, but human ships were faster and more maneuverable. They had been designed by a species that had spent centuries fighting wars. In 3 dimensions, the Chromag opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams lit up space like a deadly light show. But the human ships were no longer where the beams were aimed. They twisted and turned in patterns that made no sense to alien minds trained in traditional fleet combat. They fight like insects. General Vextar screamed at his tactical officer. Why can't we hit them? Sir, their movement patterns are too random. Our targeting computers cannot predict their positions. Then fire everywhere. Saturate the area. The Chromag did exactly that. Energy weapons fired in all directions, turning space into a maze of deadly beams. Some human ships were hit. The U's Shanghai took a direct hit and exploded. The U East Mumbai lost half its hull, but kept fighting. But while the Chromag were shooting wildly, the human ships were moving with purpose. They were hurting the alien fleet, forcing them into a tighter and tighter formation. Now, what are they doing? General Vextar demanded. He got his answer when the human ships suddenly accelerated away from the Chromag fleet. For a moment, the aliens thought the humans were retreating. Then space around the Chromag fleet erupted in nuclear fire. Admiral Chun had used the oldest trick in human warfare. While the enemy was distracted, she had seeded the space around them with nuclear mines. Dozens of fusion explosions lit up the darkness, and when the light faded, half the Chromag fleet was gone. General Vextar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 60 ships had become 30 in the space of seconds. His perfect fleet, which had conquered dozens of worlds, was being torn apart by primitives using weapons he barely understood. Kinetic weapons, he said slowly. Nuclear mines. They fight like barbarians. Sir, his tactical officer said, his voice shaking. The remaining human ships are forming up for another attack run. Admiral Chun's voice came over the communication. Channel again. General Vextar, this is your final warning. Withdraw your fleet now, or we will finish what you started. General Vextar looked at his remaining ships. His crews were panicking. His captains were requesting orders. His perfect war machine was falling apart. You cannot defeat the entire hegemony, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Maybe not, Admiral Chun replied, but we can defeat you. And then we can defeat whoever they send next, and the one after that. Humans don't give up, General. We don't know how. For the first time in his career, General Vextar considered retreat. The Chromag did not run from inferior enemies. But these humans were not inferior. They were something worse. They were unpredictable. All ships, he said slowly, withdraw. To the outer system. The remaining Chromag ships began pulling back. The human fleet let them go, but kept weapons trained on them. Admiral Chun turned back to the communication channel with Ambassador Kethvar. The alien was staring at her with something close to worship. Admiral, how did you do that? Their technology was superior in every way. Technology doesn't win wars. Ambassador, Admiral Chun replied, tactics do. Strategy does. The will to fight does. Your people forgot that. The Chromag never learned it. But they will be back, Kethvar said. They will bring more ships, better weapons. Admiral Chun nodded. Probably, but by then we'll be ready for them. And Ambassador? Yes, Next time, we won't give them a warning. The news of the Chromesh defeat at Zelfani Prime spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In the great halls of the Chromic High Command on their capital world, Emperor Zethkol listened to General Vexstar's report with growing rage. His massive form, covered in black scales and burning with internal fire, cast shadows on the walls as he paced. "You retreated," the Emperor said, his voice like distant thunder. "The Chromac hegemony has never retreated from inferior forces." "General." Vexstar kept his head low. "My Emperor, these humans are not inferior. They fight unlike any species we have encountered. Their tactics are chaotic, unpredictable. They use primitive weapons in ways we cannot counter. Primitive weapons defeated our shields? They do not use energy weapons against our ships, my Emperor. They fire solid projectiles at incredible speeds. Our shields are useless against them. They also use nuclear explosives as area denial weapons. And their ship movements." Emperor Zethkol slammed his fist on the command throne, cracking the metal. "Enough excuses. You lost to primitives who have barely left their home system." "My Emperor," another voice interrupted. Admiral Korath, the Emperor's chief military advisor, stepped forward. "Perhaps we should study these humans more carefully. Before our next attack." "Study them?" Emperor Zethkol turned his burning eyes toward the Admiral. "The hegemony does not study prey. We devour it. Yes, my Emperor. But consider this. In 200 years of conquest, no species has ever defeated our ships in open battle. These humans destroyed 60 vessels in a single engagement. We must understand how." Emperor Zethkol was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "Very well. Send the Grand Fleet, 3,000 ships. If these humans are so dangerous, we will crush them with overwhelming force." Admiral Korath bowed. "It will be done, my Emperor." Meanwhile, 3 star systems away, Admiral Chun was dealing with her own problems. The human fleet had set up a temporary base on a moon orbiting Zelfani Prime. The captured Chromac technology was being studied around the clock by teams of human engineers and scientists. Dr. James Park, no relation to the general, was leading the technology analysis team. He was a small man with thick glasses who got excited about things most people found boring. Right now, he was very excited. "Admiral, you need to see this," he said, bursting into the command center without knocking. Admiral Chun looked up from the tactical reports she was reading. "What is it, Doctor?" "The chromic energy shields. I know how they work. And more importantly, I know how to make them work for us." He activated a holographic display showing the internal structure of a chromac shield generator. Their technology is based on controlled gravitational fields. They create a bubble of distorted space-time around their ships that deflects energy weapons. Can we build them? Better. We can improve them. Dr. Park's excitement was growing. Their shields only stop energy. But if we modify the field generators, we can create shields that stop kinetic weapons too. Admiral Chun set down her reports. "How long?" 2 weeks to build a prototype. Maybe a month to retrofit the fleet. You have 2 weeks for the prototype. But Doctor, I need more than defensive improvements. What about their weapons? Dr. Park grinned. Already working on it. Their energy weapons are powerful, but they're designed for long-range combat against slow-moving targets. We can make them faster, more accurate, and much more efficient. Good. What else? Their faster-than-light drives are incredible. 3 times faster than anything we imagined possible. If we can reverse engineer them, do it. All of it. Use every resource we have. Dr. Park nodded and hurried away. Admiral Chun turned back to her reports, but she was interrupted again. This time, it was Commander Santos. "Admiral, we're receiving multiple intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The Chromic are mobilizing everything they have. Admiral Chun looked at the star map on the main display. How much is everything? Best estimates put the Grand Fleet at over 3,000 ships. They're pulling vessels from every conquered system. This will be their largest force in 2 centuries. When will they arrive? 6 weeks, maybe 8. They're moving slowly to keep the fleet together. Admiral Chun nodded. That gives us time. Signal Earth. Request immediate reinforcement of the fleet. Also send our technical specifications for the captured technology. I want Earth shipyards building new vessels with hybrid human chromic systems. Yes, ma'am. Admiral, are you sure? We can handle 3,000 ships? Admiral Chun smiled that cold smile again. Commander, we're about to find out what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. The next 6 weeks were the busiest in human history. Earth's shipyards worked around the clock, building new vessels that combined human engineering with captured chromic technology. The new ships were faster, better armed, and better protected than anything humanity had ever built. But Admiral Chun was not just building ships. She was building something more dangerous, a new kind of warfare. The human fleet had grown to 400 ships by the time the Chromic Grand Fleet arrived. It was still outnumbered 7 to 1, but Admiral Chun had spent weeks preparing the battlefield. The asteroid belt between Zelthani, Prime and its outer moon had been turned into a maze of hidden weapons platforms, automated defense systems, and mobile missile batteries. Human engineers had used chromic technology to create cloaking devices that hid their positions. The entire region was a trap waiting to be sprung. When the Chromic Grand Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel, they found what appeared to be a small human force waiting for them. Admiral Chun had positioned only 50 ships in visible range. The rest were hidden throughout the system. Emperor Zethkal himself commanded the Grand Fleet from his massive flagship, the Worldbreaker. The ship was 10 kilometers long and armed, with enough weapons to destroy entire planets. It had never been defeated in battle. Humans, the Emperor said, looking at the tactical display. 50 ships against 3,000. They must be insane. Admiral Koreth was studying the sensor readings. My Emperor, something is wrong. Our sensors detect only 50 ships, but the energy signatures are strange. There should be more. It does not matter, Emperor Zethkal replied. Signal the fleet. Destroy them all. The Chroma Grand Fleet moved forward in perfect formation. 3,000 ships advancing like a wall of death. Their weapons charged, ready to turn the human fleet into space dust. Then Admiral Chun sprang. Her trap. The hidden weapons platforms opened fire first. Thousands of kinetic rounds and guided missiles streaked out from concealed positions. The Chromac had no idea where the attacks were coming from. Their perfect formation turned into chaos as ships tried to avoid weapons they couldn't see. Where are they shooting from? Emperor Zethkal roared. Unknown, my Emperor. Our sensors cannot penetrate their cloaking technology. Then the hidden. Human ships revealed themselves. 350 vessels appeared from behind asteroids, from inside gas clouds, from positions the Chromac had never thought to check. They opened fire with weapons that combined human kinetics with Chromac energy technology. The results were devastating. The new hybrid weapons could punch through Chromac shields and armor like they were made of paper. Ship after ship exploded. As human fire found its mark, but Admiral Chun had saved her best surprise for last. As the Chromac fleet tried to regroup, she activated her final weapon, a computer virus that human programmers had hidden in the captured technology they had been studying. Chromac ships began turning on each other as their computer systems were hijacked. Weapons that should have fired at humans instead targeted other Chromac vessels. Navigation systems directed ships into collisions. Communication networks filled with false orders and contradictory commands. This is impossible. Emperor Zethkal screamed as his mighty fleet tore itself apart. How are they doing this? Admiral Chun's voice came over the communication channel, calm and cold. Emperor Zethkal, this is Admiral Chun of the Terran Defense Force. You made a mistake. You thought you were fighting the humans who came to help the Zelthani. You were wrong. You're fighting the humans who learned from you. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the Chromic Grand Fleet was gone. 3,000 ships reduced to scattered debris. Emperor Zethkal's flagship drifted powerless, its crew dead, its weapons silent. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as news of the victory spread. The Chromic hegemony, conquerors of 1,000 worlds, had been destroyed by a species that most civilizations had never heard of. Admiral Chun stood on her bridge, looking at the wreckage of the enemy fleet. Commander Santos approached her with a communication tablet. Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from Chromic-occupied worlds across the galaxy. Also, 17 different species are requesting to join our alliance. Admiral Chun nodded. Signal Earth. Tell them we're going to need more ships. 6 months after the destruction of the Grand Fleet, Admiral Chun stood on the observation deck of the U's Valkyrie, staring at the massive world that filled the viewport. Chromic Prime was a dark planet covered in industrial cities and military installations. It had been the center of an empire that had ruled half the galaxy for over 200 years. Today, it would fall. The siege had lasted 3 months. Human fleets surrounded the planet completely, cutting off all supply lines and communications. But Admiral Chun had not simply bombarded the world into submission. She had something more elegant in mind. Admiral, Commander Santos reported from behind her. The planetary defense grid is down. All orbital stations have been destroyed or captured. The surface is defenseless. Admiral Chun nodded, but did not turn around. What about the civilian population? Intelligence estimates 12 billion Chromac citizens on the surface. Military installations are concentrated in the northern hemisphere. Civilian areas are mostly in the south. And the government? Emperor Zethkal is confirmed to be in the capital city. Our signals intelligence indicates he's trying to coordinate a last-ditch defense, but most of his military commanders have already surrendered. Admiral Chun finally turned away from the viewport. The last 3 months had aged her. Her hair was grayer, her face more lined, but her eyes still held that cold determination that had carried humanity through the war. Signal the fleet. Begin final approach. And Commander, open a channel to the planet. The main screen activated, showing the image of Emperor Zethkal. The mighty ruler of the Chromic looked nothing like the proud conqueror who had sent the Grand Fleet. His scales were dull, his fire had dimmed, and his red eyes showed nothing but defeat. Human Admiral, he said, his voice barely a whisper. You have won. My empire is broken. My fleets are destroyed. What do you want? Admiral Chun studied the broken emperor for a moment. Unconditional surrender. Immediate release of all prisoners. From conquered worlds. Full reparations to every species the hegemony has harmed. And a complete reorganization of your government. Emperor Zethkal's mandibles clicked bitterly. And if I refuse, then we finish what you started, Admiral Chun replied. But this time, we don't stop until every Chromic world is free. You would commit genocide? Admiral Chun's expression did not change. We would do what is necessary to ensure this never happens again. But that choice is yours, Emperor. The screen went silent. Emperor Zethkal looked older than his 1,000 years. Finally, he spoke. I accept your terms. The Chromac hegemony surrenders unconditionally to the Terran Protectorate. Terran Protectorate? Admiral Chun smiled for the first time in months. I like the sound of that. The formal surrender took place in the great throne room of the Chromek Imperial Palace. Representatives from dozens of liberated worlds attended the ceremony. Admiral Chun wore her dress uniform, the same one she had worn when accepting Germany's surrender at the end of the Third World War. Emperor Zeethkal approached the podium slowly, his massive form diminished by defeat. He carried a datapad containing the surrender documents. When he reached Admiral Chun, he stopped and looked at her with something that might have been respect. "You have destroyed an empire that lasted 1,000 years," he said quietly. "How? Did you do it?" Admiral Chun took the datapad from his hands. "We remembered something your people forgot, Emperor. War is not about who has the biggest guns or the most ships. War is about who wants to win more. My people were warriors for 10 centuries, Emperor Zeethkal protested. "No," Admiral Chun replied. "Your people were conquerors. There's a difference. Conquerors fight for power. Warriors fight for something greater than themselves." She signed the surrender document and handed it back to him. "You fought for an empire. We fought for freedom. That's why you lost." The aftermath of the war changed the galaxy forever. The Terran Protectorate became the dominant force in local space. But unlike the Chromek hegemony, it ruled through protection rather than conquest. Any species that wanted to join could apply for membership. The only requirements were a commitment to peace and a willingness to defend other member worlds. Within 2 years, over 50 different civilizations had joined. The former Chromek worlds were given a choice. They could become independent, join the Protectorate, or form their own governments. Most chose independence, tired of being ruled by others. But they also signed mutual defense treaties with humanity, knowing that other threats might emerge from the unexplored regions of the galaxy. Emperor Zeethkal was tried for crimes against sentient life by a joint tribunal of the species his empire had conquered. He was found guilty on all counts, but was sentenced to life in prison rather than execution. Admiral Chun had argued for mercy, saying that executing him would make him a martyr. The former emperor spent his remaining years writing memoirs that became required reading at military academies across the galaxy. His final work, titled The Humans, Why We Lost, became one of the most influential military texts ever written. Ambassador Kethfer was promoted to head of the new Galactic Council, a governing body that included representatives from all Protectorate worlds. He often spoke about the day the humans arrived and how they had turned a request for backup into the liberation of half the galaxy. Dr. Yilla, the scientist who had first suggested contacting Earth, became the head of the new interspecies technology exchange. Her work on combining human and alien technologies led to advances that benefited every member world of the Protectorate. Admiral Chun retired from active military service but remained as head of the Protectorate Defense Force. She established new military academies on 12 different worlds, teaching alien species the tactical and strategic thinking that had made humanity so effective in combat. But perhaps the most important change was in how the galaxy thought about war itself. The Chromek had seen war as a tool of conquest. Other species had seen it as something to be avoided at all costs. Humanity taught them a third way, war as a tool of protection. The new Protectorate military doctrine was simple. Attack any member world, and you would face the combined might of 50 different species led by humans who had spent their entire history learning how to fight. It was a promise that kept the peace for decades. 10 years after the war ended, Admiral Chun stood once again on an observation deck, this time looking out at Earth. She was older now, grayer, but still sharp. Commander Santos, now an admiral herself, stood beside her. "Any regrets?" Admiral Santos asked. Admiral Chun thought about the question. The war had cost humanity dearly. Thousands of ships destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers killed. Earth's resources stretched to the breaking point, but it had also shown the galaxy what humanity could do when threatened. More importantly, it had shown what humanity would do to protect the innocent. No regrets, Admiral Chun said finally. We did what we had to do. The Zalfani called us for backup, Admiral Santis observed. They probably expected a few thousand advisors and maybe some military equipment. Admiral Chun smiled. They got something better. They got humanity. Do you think we'll have to fight another war like this? Admiral Chun looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, in the unexplored regions of the galaxy, other threats might be waiting. Other empires might be growing. Other species might need protection. Probably, she said. But next time, we'll be ready. And next time, we won't be fighting alone. The message that had started it all was simple. We need help. The response had been just as simple. Help is coming. But the result had been something neither side could have imagined. A new age of cooperation between species. A new way of thinking about war and peace. And a new protector watching over the galaxy. The aliens had called humans for backup. Had gotten something much better. They had gotten humanity itself.